We talked after the game. He said, man, think your son and his boys, I need them on my team. I need two physical guards, man. So Adrian has a good program. It's Miss Overton, Round Rock High School volleyball coach and also basketball coach, Max Performance, Nike affiliated volleyball program here in town. And lastly, Jarrell Booker, a graduate University of Texas from Dallas, law degree from Howard, and he runs the Austin Defenders AU basketball program and Under Armour affiliated program. And Jarrell Booker, he's the HNIC at the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board here in Texas. All right.
I love him.
It's not too often a brother can call you up and say, Dr. Moore, I got $300,000. Can y'all use it? Right? All right. So let me start, and Anisha, let me start with you all. Has youth sports, has it gone too far? Because as it relates to basketball, I don't see kids playing pickup basketball anymore. So this is for you and Adrian. Has everything become about playing for a club and everything being so super duper organized as opposed to just going to the park and playing? Anisha, we'll let you go first, then Adrian will let you take it.
I think organization is not a bad thing, as far as having a team, having coaches to go learn the game from, and having a place to go and play, an opportunity. I think it's a lot of opportunity out there, and so it gets overwhelming. It gets confusing about what's best for my kid. Do I go to the club that's paying for everybody, or do I go to the club that you have to pay for? I think parents have to figure out what's the best fit for their kid. And yes, I don't like that kids don't go play at the playground anymore. That's how I grew up, by myself, only child. Get your chores done, get your homework done. I was down the block at the goal on the church working on my game. And it wasn't because mom said go do it, right? I never had a trainer growing up, which is crazy, but and that the training side is different. But yeah, I wanted to go play basketball on my own, so it was my decision.
Adrian, what about you?
So I don't think it's gone too far, but kind of piggybacking off what he said, it is really structured now, and it's become to the point where you do have to make decisions what's best for your athlete, best for your child. I dislike the aspect that the kids don't really apply themselves. You have some kids that are self-motivated. Some it's parent driven, but end of the day, as a young guy in the profession myself, it's benefits to both sides. You try to encourage those kids to be more self-motivated, do those things on their own, go to a basket, go to a gym. So many gyms now. I see both sides of it, but I definitely wouldn't say that it's gone too far.
Jarrell, what do you think? Has it gone too far?
Oh, it's definitely gone too far. And it's gone too far because it's a $15 billion business in this country, and people get their jobs off this now. It's not about the kids, it's about me getting paid. And it's not just the coaches and trainers, it's the school districts. It's $100 an hour for a gym. So if I got to pay $100 an hour, I got to charge that to somebody. I'm not paying it. And then it goes to the parents. So now what you have is the U.S. soccer team and all these U.S. teams, they don't have the best in the country because the people can pay for it. So with that, it's gone too far. And the last part has gone too far. And the video shows it. Adults, we've taken youth sports away from youth, and it's about adults. Those clowns should never been around kids. Right? So we're talking teachers do hours and hours, hundreds of hours to learn pedagogy and how to be a teacher, but yet some clown who didn't play college ball wants to teach your kid, you give it to him and pay him, and now he's your coach. And then we underestimate the impact of what coaches have on kids. So has it gone too far? Yeah, it's gone too far.
Crystal, as it relates to volleyball, that stuff is expensive. Y'all send an invoice to me and my wife for $325 every month. All right? That's cheap. That's cheap. Well, this won't be it for my daughter. We talk about right here. We talk about right here, all right? But here's what I noticed. Now, UT is interesting because they got about 8 sisters on the volleyball team. And a lot of them come here because they say, Dr. Moore, this is the only college program in the country where I can see people look like me. How do we get more young sisters in volleyball? Because these sisters are athletic. And so how do we, in your role, how many black girls come through Max? I know how many I see when I come, but how many black girls typically go through Max Performance?
At least half, if not more than half. So our program in particular is geared towards the lower income, maybe the kids that don't, or parents that don't have the $5,000 to spend, on a training program. And it's more about their abilities and training the ones that want to play, training the ones that maybe don't have the money, but they have the athleticism, they have the ability, they have the drive to want to play. And I think, kind of what everyone's saying, there's bits and pieces of that are true. Yes, part of it's gone too far. The other part of it is, no, we don't have kids that kind of are self-motivated. It is driven by, well, my parents paid for me to play, so I'm going to play. So I take bits and pieces from that, but from our program in particular, and it's what I pride myself on. I've been with Max now for almost 8 years. Have I been, asked to come to other clubs that maybe are more expensive and maybe offer more things that are bigger? Absolutely, but I chose to stay at a program where I can see people of our color, people that maybe don't have the ability to pay for those high programs, but they can still get quality training.
Kwame, let me come to you, the football guy.
All right.
My son played football with Kwame and them, and I think you told me y'all started working out in July, August?
Yes, sir. Yeah, some. Those who are not receiving individual training, which is, another.
And then I asked him how many nights a week practice was once the season started. He said 3 nights a week. So I'm like, hold on a minute. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, right?
Yes.
Game on Saturday. Is that too much?
Well, let me first say that film was hard to watch because it makes it difficult for those who really get into youth sports for the right reasons. I have the same passion versus perspective. What you saw was some passion, but you also saw the wrong perspective. And the panel here are people who have the right perspective and get into it for the right reason, which is an opportunity to be appealing in the community and provide some life skills, as Shaka was speaking about. These scenarios makes it very difficult for those who have a passion. I'm from a small city, Tallulah, Louisiana, as he mentioned, where it was a privilege to play youth sports. We didn't have a lot of uniforms. My dad, fortunately, my experience, and we all share unique experiences, but my experience was a great experience. And it was tied to my father before going into the ministry. He ministered on the canvas of youth sports. My friends, who the culture was that the coaches would drive around the community and pick up each player because 75% of the community didn't have a family car. So it was on the canvas that my friends learned about David versus Goliath, Daniel in the lion's den, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. Somebody out there here. But because of that, I think, yes, youth sports have gone too far, but yet in another scope, it hasn't gone far enough.
Okay. Adrian and Anicia, are we forcing kids to specialize, to over-specialize in one sport at an early age?
Personally, no. Like, I love dual athletes. When I have my basketball players come and say, hey, I got a volleyball tournament, or I have track, or I'm in long distance. I love that. I want them and advise them to do more sports. As a sports society, parents, some coaches that have to, go more selfish and like, hey, I need this kid. I need you to play on my team. Yes, we are telling them to focus on one sport. I was a dual sport in high school. I did basketball and volleyball, all-stater in both. But I chose, thank you, sorry. I chose basketball, and that was my decision. It wasn't mom's decision. And she allowed me to do that. Now, if I wanted to go and do volleyball too and basketball and find a school that would allow me to do both, I would have chose that. So I think we need to as well continue to ask what the kids are wanting and watch what they do. Watch how they enjoy training. Do they want to go more? Yeah, let them go more. Do they not like it? Just go twice a week or once a week. But, also you have to, there's the demands for the team. Team says practice 3 times a week. So it's just hard. It's hard. It's very hard.
Adrian, are we asking kids to over-specialize early on? Because Adrian, you want them brothers in the gym.
You know, I would say no, just kind of basing it off, you know, just personal experience. You know, I have a lot of dual athletes, you know, multi-sport athletes, and I try to encourage them, you know, as much as they can, you know, play both. But I have those conversations where some kids, they early or, you know, even a little bit older, they'll approach me and say, hey, I want to play at the next level. Well, you know, as we all know, it's very rare you have a dual athlete that can do it all the way through. So I'm never the coach that, hey, you know, you stop now. I just give them the real, my realistic opinion of, hey, you know, just tell them my story. I stopped playing football in the freshman year only because I saw my ceiling in football. Could have pushed more, but I just saw basketball. There was this unlimited potential on how far I could have taken it. And so I just express to kids, any athlete that comes to me and has that opinion, I encourage them to play as many sports as they want to. I just know all of them take commitment. You know, so, you know, if you're going to do something, I'm just a firm believer in you can do multi-sports, but you got to be committed to all of them. You know, you can't have one foot in and one foot out. So I have nothing against dual sport athletes. Just, you know, make the commitment and, you know, make it happen.
One thing, can I add something?
Sure.
I think I probably touched on it before, but it's always got to be about the kid's choice. You know, kids like Destiny Hooker, right? Volleyball and track and field. A beast in both. She probably said, hey, I'm going to do both. And of course, you know, a school's going to make room for that. But also, like Adrian said, being realistic to that kid, that specific kid or parent, to say, give them their options. Just make sure they know their options and they have the information to choose what they want to do.
Let me shift gears and talk about parents for a minute.
Yeah, let's go.
All right. And Kwame, you're unique. One thing about your program, it's one of the few environments in Austin I've seen where you got Sadidi and bourgeois black on one end. We've been honest, right? And hood and thugged out on the other end. But yet 3 nights a week and on Saturdays we're all together. All right. How do you deal with the parents? And then I'll come to you, Crystal, because you probably deal with more, middle income parents. How do y'all deal with parental expectations, and particularly these parents who are over involved in their son or daughter's sports life?
Well, to be very honest, it's through trial and error. And through trial and error, what I've learned is that it's very, very important to, in the very beginning, establish your philosophy, establish dialogue and expectations with the parents. That's not going to correct it all, but at least you have set the tone. Communication is very important. It goes back to passion versus perspective. We have to embed a culture of not just understanding the perspective of
Kwame, parents say crazy stuff in the stands. You know that.
Very, very crazy. I mean, to a point of physically fighting.
Right.
I think leadership is super important as well, because in the initial stages of establishing your youth activities, the more you involve parents, the more parents see your energy in trying to do what we say is the right thing, and the more they hear, it comes to a point to where they self-correct, because it tends to become embarrassing. I don't have all the answers, but I do know that what's helpful is establishing and embedding a culture of expectation.
Crystal, how do you do it?
I would agree with a lot of what he said as far as establishing from the beginning. From my perspective, what I see a lot of with parents that are paying for these extracurricular sports is the sense of entitlement. I'm paying, they should be playing all the time. Well, that's just not a ideal expectation, and they have to remember, and what we try to get them to remember is what you're paying for is the training. What you're paying for is the training to get these kids, better at what they want to do. And in that sport, it's not about you paying for them to be on the court. So there's a difference, and sometimes it's hard for parents to separate that. Again, establishing expectations up front, coming to an understanding of what you're paying for is not to say my child is going to play all the time. What you're paying for is the training and allowing that child to progress and get better at these skills that will allow them to play.
Have you ever been confronted by a parent immediately after a game? Many of you all.
Absolutely, but we highly discourage it.
24-hour rule.
window.
Yeah, 24-hour rule. Nope.
I mean, those volleyball moms are tough.
They are.
I just think, you know, when I've had a few parents, you know, upset parents approach me right after, even though, you know, I email, I tell it anytime they call me. I think we all have the 24-hour rule, but you just maintain that integrity, you know, because kids are watching, other families are around, and again, it's not even about that one personal instance. I just believe that you maintain that integrity, and that parent, once they come down from, you know, whatever angle they're from, they'll realize maybe when they're home or driving home that wasn't the right decision. So I think you handle it the right way, respectfully. You know, you always, you know, just come out on top.
And one question for Jarrell, and then we'll open it up for questions. Jarrell, you just recently started an AU program, and like I said, got this Under Armour affiliation. Why did you want to enter that messy world? Because it's grimy of AAU basketball.
And it goes to your question. I did this for what you had asked earlier. If it's we're trying to do this one sport sort of thing. The reason it's moving kids to one sport, I think, is because it costs too much to do two sports. Your time, the kids only have so much time to study. They didn't talk about that not once. They don't have time to study. They don't have time to have fun. They don't have time to do the church work. They don't have time to volunteer. Those are all things that require these students to be adults. So what they do is they play ball so much that they forget being adults. So something Coach Smart said I thought was interesting. He compared Bamba to Dell, right? And I know he was doing it based off of he should be able to go early just like Dell left early. The difference is Dell's mom was a stockbroker. Her dad was an optometrist, right? Or orthodontist. He had some of those skills before he walked into UT. Mo does not. So some of this stuff needs to happen at the high school and middle school level, and to be quite frank, some parents can't give that. So your club should be doing that if you can, or your youth group, or whatever group you're a part of should be able to do that. So I joined the Under Armour because I needed to fund a program, and I'm telling you, these people, I know a lot of these people on this panel, they run excellent programs. Like the students and the parents tell me that, so they are true to their word. But I will also tell you that I know how much it costs to rent a gym in the field. I know how much it costs to pay my coach. I know how much those tournaments cost. I know how much that those uniforms cost. That's where that cost comes from. And then if I want to look for myself, I add that in per kid. So I need about 10 kids to make my numbers work. If I need 10, guess what? Number 9, number 10 probably won't play. I don't like that. Right? Because I'm going to tell the parent, I don't want you cursing me out at the game. Number 10 and number 9 can't be on my team because they're not going to play. I need you to know that now so they go play somewhere else. I don't need that extra dollars. I don't need that $2,000 I just walked out that door because now I go to Under Armour and get them to pay me that $2,000 because they don't care about your kids. They'll give you the money. They want you to wear their stuff. They want you to buy their gear, and they want you, hopefully, one of you get to be big and be Mo Bamba and come play for one, go to their school or go play for their program. So that's why I did Under Armour. For the 8 to 9 that I have, they can maximize their exposure, play on the circuit. Like Ernie, you can be seen nationally. And for my programs, I have about 6 pros, I think 72 D1 scholarships now with the defenders. Because of that Under Armour has given us that sort of ability for ones who are special, the 0.2%, they can actually go get that free ride and get something out of it. And the rest of them enjoy life, learn how to eat well, do well in school, respect adults. All the things that they should be getting out of youth sports, that's what we try to give the other 98%.
We got time for a couple questions from the audience. Don't bring a mic. Somebody come up here.
Hey, my name is Jen Fry, and kind of a question for a few of you. First of all, agreeing with how this is a billion-dollar industry. I used to coach club, and my friend here, Rita, coaches college volleyball, and we have Rick Butler from Sports Performance who had this humongous sexual harassment, assault case, rape, and still was able to coach because he made so much money for the club. He just barely got banned with USA Volleyball, but not JVA or AAU. So you spoke about the problem of 2 and 3 sport players. And in volleyball, those are pretty much becoming extinct. You start your, 8th grade, you are one sport and that's all. I was 3 sports as well, Hall of Famer. And so the thing that we see in volleyball is that the fighting is not amongst parents, but amongst coaches. That if you're going to go play volleyball, well, you can't come play basketball. If you're going to go play this, well, you can't be on our team, or you can't be on the top team.
Yes.
You're going to almost be punished and be on a lower team if you think you're going to be a dual athlete. And as we know, dual athletes, triple athletes, they do amazing things. Those other sports help them out tremendously. So how can we stop the coach fighting that's pulling these players in different directions that isn't really allowing them to play the sport that they want, but maybe playing the sport that they're going to have the better opportunity in?
If I may, one reason it
Go
came
ahead,
up is because most sports went year round. They went year round so you can compete against other sports. I mean, this is strategic. It's not mine. I got kids who play ball. I get it. Soccer locks you in year round. Now you can't play anything else. Now I got your $2,000 forever. That's sort of mine. Then you say, well, you're not working as hard because you're doing other sports, and then also high school sports do that. So the bigger thing with that is coaches don't get training really. Majority don't. So they're not educated on how you talk to kids, how you treat kids, and that's where we need to actually require some sort of soccer, and I think volleyball soccer requires a lot of training. They got soccer. It's unlike NCAA, but it's kind of a lot more accountability involved. In basketball, there's zero. I tell you, 4 or 5 kids come play with me. Here's how much it costs. Let's go, and I can coach anywhere I want. So if you require some more training and identification of staff and coaches who talk like the ones at this panel, you're going to get a lot better product, and you're going to get a different tone from the coach to say you can play multiple sports, but obviously you're going to miss out on some training if you do X, Y, and Z.
Okay, the question that I have ties in a little bit to the youth sport piece, but also you all brought up parents. I have a near and dear place in my heart for research on parents in youth sport. The first part of my question is where we are today in youth sport. So we know that we have the organization, the structure of it, but the reality is it's commercialized now. So my question is, are we using youth sport to develop athletes, or are we using youth sport to develop young people? That's the first part of my question, which then ties into parent expectations. I spoke a little bit earlier about having a son who plays. There's some fun parents that we've been around. I've been that parent sometimes. But the expectation of parents is also driven by the results that are promised to parents by our children being a part of specific organizations. And so AAU teams are promising, we're going to get your son or your daughter exposure. Youth football teams, we're going to play the best teams in this area so that we can get them exposure. So in turn, I'll let you all answer the question, but we're producing athletes. And so parents come in with that expectation as well. So youth sport now has become a minor league for filtering our kids into higher level sport. We all know they're not all going to make it. But those dynamics I want you to kind of speak to. Do you all still feel like you're producing and developing young people, or are you training future wannabe professional athletes at the ages of 6, 7, 8, 9, and older?
I'll take that one first. I definitely feel like I'm, developing all these, young men and women, to be great people, and I say that because, I was taught at a young age, from my coaches. I was fortunate to have high school and college coaches that, okay, man, you're high skill, but, get on the dean's list. That impresses me, which one of my coaches pushed me to graduate on the dean's list. Be a good person, walk the way, walk and talk that way. And, it helped me a lot. And so when I'm with these kids every single day, I show them to lead by example. Then also when they talk to me in any opinion I can give, I just make sure they understand that, my goal is to be a professional athlete, and I was able to do that. But, before I did that, graduated, made sure I took the academics first. One of those kids who, without a coach telling me, I want to sit in the front. I'm not a good listener when I'm in the back. So I'll sit in the front, I'm taking notes, and just, when that class is over, when that basketball practice is over, be a good person. Like Mr. Booker just said, learn how to talk to adults. I think if I didn't take those things early, I probably wouldn't be sitting on this panel. And so I think I take that very seriously and teaching them to be not just great athletes, but a great person as well.
And when my son was on Adrian's team, it's a long way from my house to get to his gym. But I told my wife it was important for me to have my son and his best friend around a coach with integrity, who wasn't going to promise a lot of craziness, and at the end of the day was going to help him, transition from being a boy to an adolescent. So can't do that commute no more, but it was good for a year.
I'll add to that. So I think the goal is to do both, but I think we get stuck in the athletic part and not actually making sure that we are developing them as good human beings, leaders, so that they can use that when they get to high school, college, and after college. I think that's the goal. But for me, it's trial and error, like Coach Kwame said earlier. I'm just now getting into coaching AAU, and now I have top team. This year, I was going to have 8th graders, but I got promoted. So I've got juniors and girls. And so it was really weird. I was at work. I work at a cryotherapy place, and I was talking to one of my moms that came in, and she does self-defense and Muay Thai and different karate, and I was talking to her. And so my experience playing overseas for 7 years, I did not really know the ratio of women that have been molested, raped. And so we're deep in conversation with my teammates, and we're talking about how they were molested as a child, and it was a family member, and just different things that I had never been through, but it's a red flag. And so now that I've got these girls, they're my responsibility. And so I'm thinking of ways that I can give to them other than basketball. So I'm hoping I can find a way to bring in a female self-defense instructor. And so that resonates with me because being overseas, being female, being black, and there's not many black people overseas unless you're in Africa or unless you're in France. There's a lot of African people there. I played in Romania. I played in Sweden. I played in Australia, France, Ecuador, and Puerto Rico. So there's some countries that when they look at you, they know you're there for athletics, okay? And you might be a target by yourself. So for these girls, I'm now thinking this was never taught to me. So if I can do that for them while they're in high school, when they get to college, they understand the buddy system and the importance of it, and not that, it's not a big deal. It is a big deal. If you walking home, you got a class at 8, 9, 10, you got to walk home on campus by yourself. Might not be a male to walk you home. Might not be another group of girls to walk you home. We have to be able to, as women, empower them to be able to defend themselves, and be, if that happens, be ready. And I got on my mom too, because she's a referee and she's always traveling by herself. I'm like, and she's 50, so I'm like, Ma, first of all, you need to get your swimming lessons going, because she can't swim. I'm like, no, you need to swim, and you're going to take this self-defense class, and we're going to go to the gun range and shoot. Yeah, I took it that far, because I get scared. My mom is such that single mom for years and years. She's not going to stop working. She's going to go and go. And if you look questionable, she's going to call it out. But I need you to understand how to protect yourself if I'm not there.
Crystal.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to add, I think it is important to have some sort of involvement in every aspect of the athlete's life and their daily life. I make it a point to ask, how their day was in school, show them your report card. We do special things for, grades and, if they volunteered, and we get all of the team to volunteer. Try to insert and involve yourself in other aspects other than just showing up for practice, showing up for games, and then that's it. So being an active part.
But we'll let you close it up
Right.
to the sister's question. Are amateur coaches promising too much on the front end?
I think amateur coaches believe what they're promising. They just don't have a strategy or plan on how to do it, and it's a science to it.
Mm-hmm.
We have college coaches and ex-players on our club, so we know pretty early who it is. Sometimes you can miss, but we have certain teams that we call premier. That's our top teams. They have nutritionists. We have college advisors, high school counselors. We're prepared to give them a certain amount of effort to get them recruited. We don't make that promise to everybody, because we can't do that for everybody. So why even set that expectation? That will get you cursed out after the game because you made that sort of promise. So that's sort of being strategic about who you can do, how many you can take, not about based off the money, but how many you can actually take to do that for is how we do it. And I think what she just said is very important. Require volunteerism. Require other parts of being a kid first. They're going to be student athletes. A lot of these kids, Ernie just said she never played, never got trained. She was a ball player when she was a kid. You're going to play. They're going to come get you. So to tell them they need us, that's a mistake. So that's how we actually do it for our club. Put the right people, pick the right kids, set that expectation, train everybody hard. But you know kind of early on which ones are going to be in 6th and 7th, 8th grade, which ones are going to go to that next level.
Folks, thank you so much. I think it is picture time and lunchtime. Go right upstairs? Yes. All right, so we can head right upstairs. We'll be lunch shortly. Appreciate y'all, man.
I want a picture with everybody.